So who am I looking at?
So yeah,
because I'm got
there's
two
like
cameras
two
in.
different cameras. Yeah, just go ahead and look at
I
me.
should probably look at you. Okay.
Are we sure we're good that way?
We're good.
Go on. All right, so we are here with Naki Rasala from the Emergency Management Coordinator here in Pinellas County. I want to start just by talking about the mandatory evacuation order that was issued. What does that mean? Kind of walk us through that process.
It means that tomorrow at 6 a.m., basically, there's a mandatory evacuation of all level A evacuation zones, mobile home parks, potentially any low-lying flood zone areas that have been identified as part of being part of level A.
So that's all of level A, not just mobile homes and other individuals that may need some extra
No,
assistance.
so certainly many of our coastal communities are impacted by this, but it's clearly anything within the level A zone.
Can you talk a little bit about what goes into making a decision like that?
A lot of information. We rely on our partners at the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, our state partners. We work then with our community partners, fire departments, police departments, municipal partners to make the decision about what's the best time to evacuate, when to evacuate, and how do we provide those services. School district is a great partner in opening the shelters. So it's really a whole community response.
So the shelters, will they be opening at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning as well?
The shelters will be opening at 12 o'clock tomorrow. So the order goes in effect at 6, and we will have the shelters open officially at 12. Could be that that if someone comes, they will not be turned away necessarily, but really what we're telling people is the shelters will open at 12 o'clock.
So how do individuals check to see which shelter they could go to, and where is that information made available?
So there's different ways that you can get that information. You can call our Citizens Information Center line. Right now it is open. It's 464-4333. You can also go to pinellascounty.org, emergency, and look up Know Your Zone. And it'll say what the list of information, what shelters would be open tomorrow when we open them. And of course, we'll be working with our partners in the media to push that information out through social media. All that information is going to get out there.
When these orders are given, do they stay in place for 7 days, for less than that, or are those calls made down the road? How does that work?
It's really situation dependent, and it's dependent on the storm. So right now, there's an evacuation order that's been put in effect. The evacuation order will run through Sunday morning when we anticipate at this moment potential arrival of tropical storm force winds. And then certainly depending whether the storm comes, whether we're impacted, that will really depend. That will impact how long we have an evacuation. Do we need to order other evacuations, or does everyone get to go home early?
For folks who live in B, C, D, some of those other zones, when should they be looking to see if they have to leave as well?
So some of those decisions will be made probably in the next day, in the next 24 hours. Again, looking at the forecast, we want to be very cautious. We never want to over-evacuate, but we want to take protective measures. So really, they just need to pay attention to the news, TV. We're also going to be sending out emergency alerts through the phone, just like you get Amber Alerts. Mm-hmm. So we'll be notifying people when when evacuation orders are being put into effect.
So was this something that the EOC recommended to county commissioners?
It was certainly a conversation that we were having with them. We were shooting to open on Friday, and so it was a conversation that came about in terms of what's the best time, and so that was a decision that was made. So yes, we work with our leadership to make those decisions.
So when EOC opens up, what does that mean? What does that give you the ability to do as well?
Wow, that's bringing all our partners together, whether it's in law enforcement, first responders, whether it's our nonprofits like the Red Cross, Salvation Army, whether it's public works. It's bringing everyone that could have any role, either in helping in the evacuation or in the response, together in one room to help provide services into the community.
What goes into making a decision like this at this point, with the storm a couple of days away? Why is it important to make that several days ahead of time?
It all comes down to evacuation timing. What we look at is what is the amount of time that it would take to evacuate any particular section of our community. And then we look at, we start sort of working our way back in terms of, well, tropical storm force winds are projected to arrive around this time. How long will it take to evacuate? We may have a hospital being evacuated, we may have healthcare facilities, people with special needs. A lot of that goes into that planning consideration.
So at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, when that goes into effect, what should folks know in terms of how long they have to get out of a home, and what should they be taking with them?
Well, first of all, they've got time. You know, we've budgeted enough time. You know, no one certainly needs to be getting out the door at 6:01. Our shelters are opening up at 12 o'clock. So, you know, if they feel that they need to leave, we'll have the shelters open, or they can certainly be going to friends and family, which is actually what we always recommend, that if you have to leave an evacuation area, stick with friends and family first. In terms of what they should bring, hopefully everyone's been preparing and has a disaster plan, a disaster kit, important documents and information that you don't want to leave at home, some basic supplies, things of that nature. So it really depends, you know, did you get a hotel room and everything's going to be taken care of, or do you have to go to a shelter and maybe you want to bring a sleeping bag and a pillow? So those are the kinds of things.
So is there a time, though, that people should keep in mind that they have to be out by? Like, is it a 24-hour window once the order goes into effect, or how does that work?
No, again, the evacuation order goes from 6 a.m. tomorrow through Sunday morning.
Okay.
So really, during that time period is when you really need to be getting out. Keep in mind that if for whatever reason we have to evacuate other parts of our community, then that's more people on the road. So you just need to make a plan in terms of what you need to do and where you want to go.
I was looking at the map. There are some shelters that take animals. I mean, what should folks know in terms of pets they may have and that kind of thing?
So we do have 3 pet-friendly shelters. We have 3 special needs shelters, and we have 4 general population shelters that we are opening up in this first wave tomorrow. Should give us enough ample space, hopefully, to meet the needs of the community.
At this point, could the order be scaled back at all, or should people, you know, when they hear mandatory evacuation order, if they're in that zone A, should they know to kind of proceed with that plan?
You know, I wish I could read the future, you know, and tell you what's going to happen. The important thing is right now we're telling people you need to leave, okay? You know, and protect yourself, protect your family. Sure, the weather can change tomorrow, and then things are scaled back if necessary. But the way we've budgeted, you know, looked at the time and looked at our plans, we can either scale up or scale back down. And I think we're at that right point to take care of the needs of the community.
Can you talk just a little bit about the magnitude of this storm and why, you know, you're making a decision for something like this?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I'm not going to be the meteorologist and tell you all the particulars of the storm, but the storm is very significant. It's very large. You know, it's a very intense storm. And even if the storm were to hit, and you know, in terms of the center of the eye, hit another part of the state of Florida, we could be feeling the impacts of wind, potential surge, even in our area. So that's, you know, because of its size, that's an issue. We also have to plan for worst case, that what if it doesn't make that right turn right away? So we want to also put ourselves in a position that, you know, the community, I think, learned the lesson in Charlie, right? Everyone really was following that line, and then the storm kind of did its own thing, sort of. Still within the cone. Well, you know what? We are within the cone. So we have to plan as if that storm's coming here.
If folks maybe just joining us on Facebook, I just want to, if you can run through the numbers again and the best places for folks to kind of check those evacuation
Sure, absolutely.
areas.
So again, our Citizens Information Center hotline is open, 464-4333. You can go online and look at Pinellas County /emergency, then go to Know Your Zone to see where you live and if you are being impacted by this. And we're going to be sharing the information of what particular shelters are open with media. So social media, Twitter, we're going to be getting it out through every means possible, including Facebook Live.
So noon tomorrow, though, is when some of the shelters should be open in Pinellas County.
Yes, the hard date, the hard time to open shelters, all those shelters will be at noon tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's certainly at the time that, you know, they'll be taking people in. Not that anyone's going to necessarily be turned away if they show up a little early. Hopefully we'll have some personnel there. But the key thing is really, you know, at 12 o'clock is the time that we want people to, if they're going to come to the shelter, come after 12 o'clock.
Okay. Okay.
We have a couple of questions on here about the evacuation notice. I think this might be people just joining us in.
Sure.
Kind of walk through. Is it you guys have a briefing, right, that has like some of the board and of course emergency management, and you talk to some weather folks, right?
Like how it's made, how the decisions
yeah,
are made?
before they come out and actually make the evacuation order.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So we rely on our partners, the National Weather Service, the National Hurricane Center, and certainly our community partners in the cities, the municipalities, you know, the fire districts, in terms of, where we're looking at what they're recommending, what the potential threat could be, what worst case scenario could be. We take all that into consideration, and then we certainly make those recommendations to the board, and then obviously we take the direction of the board in terms of once they tell us, okay, we want you to go, we go. So it's a whole collaborative process that's involved.
So emergency management recommended to the board to evacuate Zone A?
That was the evacuation recommendation, that we start with level A, and then if necessary, we could scale up within a day if necessary. So we just thought that would probably be the best thing to do, is just start with level A. Again, you have to take into consideration, a lot of our community lives in evacuation zones. So if we have to call for more than one evacuation zones, we need, if let's say, for example, we have to call for a level C evacuation, that would be 28 hours, of timing that would take to evacuate those parts of the community. So starting with A kind of gives us that ability to bring other zones in if necessary.
Okay.
And right now, it's just, we're watching the weather just like everyone, and we're consulting with our partners.
So was there a decision on why there wouldn't be like a voluntary evacuation first and then the mandatory? Like, what's the threshold on that?
At least in Pinellas County, we really haven't gotten into the whole voluntary recommended. We just tell people, hey, it's time to go. We're going to tell you to go. And so, obviously, that's just the approach we take as a community in terms of what we tell them.
And we have a question on here. Someone wanted to know, did you guys use a slosh model?
Oh, yes, we use slosh modeling. We used all the different models out there. We use the tools that the local National Weather Service out of Ruskin provides for us, and certainly the guidance from National Hurricane Center.
For folks who don't know what a slosh model is, can you talk about what that is?
Basically, it gives us information of potentially what kind of surge we could expect depending on the storm.
Okay.
So, there's all kinds of possibilities depending on track, direction, intensity. So that's one of the many tools that we use.
Okay. So was part of the decision based on that model and kind of the worst case scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's all taken into account.
Okay. Okay.
So.
And we should just, if you got a lot of questions about other counties, you probably should just say that this is only.
Yeah, this is
We're
just
only
Pinellas County.
Yes, absolutely, Pinellas County. Yes.
What? But do you work with the other counties as well?
Actually, we do, in the sense that we coordinate. We have conference calls with them. So, we're sharing information, because if we're putting people on the road, they need to know that there are people that may be coming over to Pasco or Hillsborough and things of that nature. So we have calls with our regional county partners. We have calls with the state that are all part of this process.
So how many people are we talking about in terms of when you evacuate Zone A? Like, how many people is that?
I don't have that information at the top of my head right now, so I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, but several thousand. I mean, we're talking.
It's definitely not. It's not 100 people. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay. Anything else?
No, maybe if you want to wrap it up and show that zone.
Yeah, let's come over here real quick. I just want to
Sure.
show you the zone map. And so the red zones, just so we're correct, these are the zones that are under that mandatory evacuation order starting tomorrow.
Correct. Level A. Correct.
Level A.
And the reason that you sometimes will see potentially red zones in white areas could be that either it's a potential low-lying area, or it could be a manufactured home community, things of that nature. So,
Okay. Okay. And then we've got B and C down here. Those are the next two you're waiting to call, and those are the yellow and orange, correct?
if necessary.
If necessary.
At this point, we're not ready to make that decision at this point.
Okay.
Oh, one more question. Because we're so far out, and like, say the hurricane does shift out more east, and maybe not even hit, the state of Florida, would we maybe see before Sunday the evacuation
We will make
order lifted?
Yeah, I think that obviously our decisions are going to be based on the factual information of the weather and what's happening and what the threat level is. So, right now, we're in the cone. And I think that's the important thing, is that we're in the cone. And remember, the cone only talks about where the center of the storm could be. So even if the cone shrinks a bit and we're not in the cone, but the cone's still kind of not too far away, with this size of a storm, we could be feeling the impact. So again, those are all considerations that are factored in.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Good.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, no problem.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Okay. You want to end that?
Sure. All right, so we have been here talking at Pinellas County. The EOC set to open tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. They've got that mandatory evacuation order going into effect for Zone A. Let me show you that one more time before we sign off of here. We're going to continue to answer any questions you may have in the comments section below, even once we're not live. This information is online as well. You can see there are some of the shelters, a list of some of those. We're going to know more about which ones will be opening up. Those are set to open at noon tomorrow, but again, 6 a.m. is that mandatory evacuation order for Pinellas County Zone A, just Zone A, and that's that red area that you see on the map. So we're going to end this, but we'll answer any questions in the comments section, and we'll also have some more information as soon as we get it right on the 10 News app and WTSP.com. So yeah, people are looking at like questions about Largo, the beach communities. The red area right here. So you see the red area, Clearwater, Bel Air Shore, down to Reddington Beach, Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach. Those are the red areas. Kind of then around the other side of Pinellas, there's the Gandy Bridge. Just kind of put that in perspective going into South Tampa. You've got the Howard Franklin I-275 right there. Again, that area going up. Looks like parts of Safety Harbor, part of Oldsmar there in some of the red area. We're going to make sure we've got this map for you so you can see it in more detail on our website as well. And again, they've got it on the county's website, pinellascounty.org/emergency. So they've got that down there. We've got links to it as well on our site. At this point, Tampa, McDill, that's Hillsborough County. Each county will make these decisions county by county. So we're just dealing with Pinellas County right now and looking at some of those scenarios. So again, this information was just for Pinellas County Zone A. So we'll jump in the comment section once we end this and make sure to answer any of those questions.